Welcome to the Macdownunder Podcast for all Australian Apple computer enthusiasts and collectors.
Hi, and welcome to episode 14 of the Macdownunder Podcast. My name's Justin, and thanks to everyone for tuning in, and thanks so much for your likes and comments. Again, Griff's Place put in a quiz after last week's show, and this time I was patient. I did wait a few days, and truth be known, I actually had to look up a few things so I didn't embarrass myself too much. But for those that didn't follow along, Griff was reminding us of a very early Apple network game that ran with your Apple II, and you needed the communications card in your Apple II and another Apple II, and you could bind them together and you could play Pong with each other over a small network, over a serial network. So the program was called Tally Pong. And in the chat, I've got to talk to Matt about this, probably off air, should have done that before the show. But Griff's even suggesting we should link up either the museum or my place and Griff's place and play a game of Tally Pong together, just to prove that you still can, if we can, in the current technology. Anyway, so there you go. Like Griff's place, please keep the comments coming in and let us know what you'd like to hear about in future episodes. So today we're going to do a fairly deep recap of everything that happened at the Mac Museum Open Day last Saturday. And to do that, I really need the help of my co-host, Matt, who is the proprietor of Mac's Museum. Welcome, Matt. How are you and what have you been up to?
Hey, JD. Thank you. G'day, everyone. I'm doing really well here. Since the Mac Museum Open Day, I've been tinkering around. I often do that. But after the museum open day, normally on the Sunday, I'm excited about everything that's gone on the day before, and I get down to the museum and just have a bit of a play around and start to sort of spread out in the open space there again. And so that's been me. I've been spending some time getting ready for an event, which we're going to talk about a little later on. But required a little bit of preparation. I might talk a bit more about that when we get to it in our events section. And just generally just been mucking around on some of the machines down here, JD. So it's hard not to find myself sort of wandering around and playing on things when it's all so accessible and available to do so. So that's been me since the open day. I know we're going to obviously talk about that, talk about the day itself, but that's been me since. What about you, JD? What have you been up to?
Well, pretty much inspired by the open day itself. I've been playing with the OS 10 public release beta, and I've managed to get it running in emulation on my Mac Mini. So it's not on the original hardware because I haven't dusted that off. But I have got my M1 Mac Mini running the public beta. I'm still having issues with sound and networking, but I'll figure that out. But I really was inspired, and we'll get onto this later again, to about the different look and feel and going back to sort of the roots of OS 10. And so I've been doing a bit of that. I've been updating the keyboard and trackpad web pages on the Macdownunder website, and we'll probably come back and do an episode about some of that later on. And even I think as recently as yesterday, I just updated the mouse page again. So those that have been following along, there's one or two mice that I've sort of discovered along the way since we've done all the hard work earlier, and so there's now new photos with the whole family up there, as far as I'm aware. Anyway, we'll see how we go. And otherwise getting ready for this weekend's exhibition, which we'll talk about later on. And I'm hoping to get my Apple IIc, which is actually working. In fact, I've got a couple of them that are working. One of the few machines that I actually tinkered with out of the collection, with all of its accessories. So the printers that were specifically designed for it, the modem that was specifically, all those things. And so it will be, the ultimate Apple IIc desktop in retro. So no current technology as far as I'm aware, all old stuff, which, makes it fun.
That's cool.
So yeah, and also again the open day, the link back was having spoken to Danny in the repair corner that we'll talk about. Again, inspired me to do a little bit of tinkering to get one of my monitors back up and working, which worked a treat. So again, great inspiration from the open day. So we might as well talk about that. So on to today's episode. The Mac Museum opened its open day on Saturday, and it's always a great day. But this time there were a couple of special exhibits that were really worth calling out and having a chat about. We thought, and so that's what we're going to do today. And it was also great to meet a few of the followers of the podcast there, and some of the regulars that we see down at the museum as well. So, Matt, did you want to kick us off and just give us a bit of an overview of, how you got it together again? I mean, we've covered a little bit of that, but, and, preparation before the day and just some of your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I suppose just, before talking about the actual day, just a bit of insight to it for our viewers on what happens in the sort of the run up to the Mac Museum Open Day. I spent some time doing a bit of sort of furniture rearrangement behind the scenes. The eagle-eyed viewers might know the table that I've often got in the background here has taken a bit of a change with some new iBooks that have been are on display at the moment. So getting those set up, setting up moving some tables around to set up a corner for Danny, who very generously offered to do some repair work on the day, including on a couple of my machines. But getting that space set up for him so he could work comfortably, and then just trying to keep things fresh and interesting and exciting for return visitors to the museum is always about trying to just mix up some of the machines. So the iBooks, which I just mentioned behind me, are new out on display or were new for the weekend just gone, and putting some time into what I have to say I just kind of had a sort of a spontaneous idea to put together was the tribute to Mac OS 10, which we discussed last week. But getting that set up, that took quite a bit of time to make sure I could source the right machines. Period accuracy is very important, as our viewers will know. So, literally dusting some of those off, making sure that they're, the hardware was working, matching them up, finding the right mice. JD, thank you for the mouse you brought down, because I just couldn't have a mismatched mouse in the setup there. So, little bits and pieces like that. There's that sort of go on incrementally in the lead up to the day itself. So that was just a bit of insight into the sort of the run up and some of the work. Of course, being the Mac OS 10 tribute, I had to work on getting all the software installed and fresh, clean copies. Not running over the top of previous versions and things like that. So fresh, clean copies was important. That did lead me to needing to order some drive belts for my Cube to replace that, so I can have the optical drive functioning in that. As things go along, not everything comes to plan perfectly. I had my blue and white G3 unfortunately failed on the Friday night as I was just doing the sort of the final run through on the machines, which was a bit unfortunate. The machine itself is okay. It's the power supply. The fan seems to have seized. So I thought I'm not going to run the risk of doing any further damage there. But so unfortunately I had to stick the Sad Mac sticker on that one late Friday night.
20 years of blowing dust around will do that. Yes,
that is exactly it. So I did attempt to repair ahead of this was again sort of late on the Friday evening, but it got to the point I thought I'm not going to be able to do this properly with my spare blue and white, so I'll unfortunately have to retire it for the day. But that was a bit of a insight into the run up, and then the day itself. It's always exciting to in the morning racing around, getting basic things like lights, machines powered up, lights turned on, signage put out the front so people know where to go, and what makes it always better as well is having the sun out. So that was really, really pleasant day weather-wise, and for anyone that's come down, you'll know that the museum benefits from a lot of natural light, which is wonderful. So it was great to have the sun out too. So Yeah, the day went. I always get a kick out of it. As I've said before, it goes very fast. We had a lot of people that came down, new faces, some familiar faces, and really good just to um, see the enthusiasm from everyone that came in the door. So I hope you had a good time, JD. I was very grateful for you coming down and lending a hand as always.
Yeah, I always enjoy my time down there. Amongst the Macs, of course, and other Apple equipment, but also catching up some of the regulars. And this time we'll talk about it in a moment. But watching Danny do his work and learning the tips and having a chat about how he does things was fantastic to have that opportunity, and certainly recommend it to anybody else that's thinking of doing their own repairs. So the OS 10 tribute, I really loved that, I've got to say. I mean, I liked it in the photos. I liked it when I was down there doing the recording for last week's episode. But really getting the hands-on with the various versions, period correct for the hardware that it ran on, was just brilliant. Did you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I again, just had a moment. It was fairly sort of spontaneous where I thought, we're looking to mix things up, as I mentioned, just to keep it new and exciting down here at the museum. I thought, I'd love to just have a bit of a play around with the Mac OS 10 beta, and that caused me to realize that the beta was introduced 25 years ago. September 2000, 25 years ago was 25 years ago that we had that released. So I thought, look, why not put a few of these side by side so we can sort of do a progress progress picture here in terms of how things have come about and changed. And really cool to just again see them side by side and I think take note of how rapidly things had changed as well. That was probably the big thing when I was putting some of the material together, the place cards that I wrote up alongside each of the exhibits, was having a look how quickly things progressed with Mac OS 10. So September we had the public beta come out. March 2001 we had 10.0 come out in the retail boxed product, and then 6 months after that we had 10.1 come out, which was really cool. So and just a reasonably quick update to Mac OS 10 there. So it was I'm always fascinated just to sort of see the progression on things. And after I'd set up the exhibit, I sort of stepped back and I realized this was unintentional. And I'm about to talk about the video that I'm sure some of our viewers had seen that I'd put up, but unintentional. I sort of stood back and thought, I've got the early 2000s series set up back to back with the late 80s and 90s professional machines that Apple produced at the time as well. So I thought that was just a really cool picture to see, sort of, I can't say side by side, but back to back. The professional units, the really powerful machines that would have been sitting on professionals' desks back in the days. So close together, you could, one side was the beige professional, and then on the other side, the early noughties professional machine. So I think we can also see from that how if you just said, say 10 years, for example, in 10 years, how much things changed, and just particularly with the design language that Apple had adopted. We know Johnny Ive was, the brains behind a lot of that, which was great. But just, being able to see it back to back there, the progression that we'd made. If you look at an iMac from 10 years ago, you'll see it's similar sort of shape and form factor, like we've talked about before. But sort of back then, very different technologies, CRT versus LCD, for example, different industrial design uses of plastics and things like that. But Yeah, cool to see the hardware and very cool to see the software as well. So what were your thoughts on the software side of things,
Well,
JD?
nice segue, because what I really appreciated, and people know this if you were working on OS 10 back in the day, but it was a while ago now, so it is easy to forget that because Apple provides the hardware and software, they were an integrated thing. And I suspect, someone will correct us in the comments, I'm sure, but I suspect Johnny Ive had influence over some of the software look and feel as well, because as I think we talked on the day, the public beta for OS 10, for people that don't remember, had the Apple menu item, which actually didn't do anything, in the top center of the screen. And I think it was in Bondi, or certainly in a blueberry color. And so if you actually put it on the period correct hardware, which you did, you realize that it lines up and matches the Apple logo on the screen, particularly on the iMac, which I guess was the broader, more common device. But even on the professional machines, looking at the studio displays of the day, that's where the Apple logo was. So the software mirrored the hardware and sort of worked in concert. I mean, it should, but this is really taking it one step beyond just making it work together. It actually felt as though it belonged. So that's what I really liked about the public beta. Now, they didn't keep that for practical and operational reasons. They moved the Apple menu back to the left and it became functional, which is probably not a bad thing. But you can see what they were trying to do. And very much like you mentioned, seeing the progression and how things improve, that's really why I like collecting Apple computers and the Lisa and so forth. That's really what I'm into. And so seeing the progression from the public beta, where in the About This Mac, you get the old System 9 style happy Mac face in the public beta, but when you go to the production version, we've moved to the OS 10 X in the Aqua font. So that was, it's just an interesting, we're finished with the beta, now we're into the full swing OS 10 or OS X, depending how you want to say it. And also, I think, looking at how the Finder has progressed. So, as I think a few of us sort of were reminiscing during the open day, the early Finder actually had to be run. You had to run it. It didn't automatically appear, which is kind of interesting. Now, easy enough to get to because it's in the dock. But otherwise, you went to special menu, which of course disappeared after the beta, but the special menu, and you told it to open the Finder, which I thought, was a hangover perhaps to System 9 and the earlier Mac operating systems. And then the look of the Finder and how things progressed. So going from, checking your computer and then it listed all the volumes to now it's, volumes, and we've got the sidebar back in again.
Yes.
So, just fascinating to see how the various iterations of Finder, let alone any other software, progressed. I loved that. I took photos of that, but I won't show them here because it doesn't tell the whole story. But also the About This Mac. So I talked about the Apple logo being in the middle initially and then moving to the side in the Aqua. And of course, it was in the Aqua font, that light sort of blue, all through the G3 and G4 era. But as soon as we got to the brushed metal G5 Power Mac, is when they moved to the brushed metal look in OS 10 as well. And so again, if you opened, and you saw this, I think we talked about it on the day, when you opened About This Mac on the G5, suddenly you've got a brushed metal OS 10 icon sitting next to your brushed metal G5 tower. So that attention to detail to bring the hardware and software together, I think was just amazing to see. And having all of those machines side by side as you've got there, and hopefully you'll keep there for a little while, just showcased that evolution, which I just loved.
Yes. Well, for anyone that didn't make it down on Saturday, yes, the exhibit will remain. I intend on doing some videos during this month, and we'll certainly still have it up and about for the October opening. So yes, it will remain. So hopefully anyone that didn't make it down and listens to this, you might be inspired to pop down and check it out. I think just on what you were saying there, JD, as well. Some of the look and feel of the public beta, which was very much just a sort of an aquafied position of Mac OS 9 with some of the concepts. The special menu is one that stands out for me. Like on OS 9, that's where you would shut down the computer, access the shutdown command. Whereas, after 10.0 and thereafter, they'd moved under that now functional Apple menu in the top left. So, which is something that we still know of Mac OS 26 today. Hasn't changed. And I think that was the other thing, is you look at Mac OS 10 and you say, and I'm saying this in a good light. Some people could cast this in a negative light, but there are a lot of things which fundamentally are still the same. They in Mac OS today, depending on which version you're running, and modern versions of Mac OS, you've got the origins there of them in Mac OS 10. The dock, for example, the Apple menu, which is, I like being able to, go back and see that some of these things have, we could, I'm not too sure if we could use the word traditional, knowing that there was the classic Mac OS that of course came before Mac OS 10, but I'll use that term a bit loosely, but it's great to see some of those things where they originated.
Yeah, and I guess looking back in hindsight, there was a lot of complaints from users about the move from System 9 to OS 10 because the perception was it was completely different, and perhaps under the hood for developers it was. But as you say, the look and feel, they maintained it pretty well in that there was an Apple menu, and that's where you went to find things that weren't, file edit, etc. I think looking back on it now, that the transition has well and truly occurred, 20 odd years ago, as you said, that keeping some of the things consistent was really for a good user experience, so that they could make the transition and there was still some comfortable, useful, practical functions still available to you. Yeah.
My final sort of comment on this, I think, would be noting that I think when you use 10.1, and I make a reference to it on my my little product card, is that it was really the first usable version of Mac OS 10. I think a lot would consider. When you go back to 10.0 or even the public beta, I'm running the public beta on a dual 450 megahertz Power Mac G4. JD, we've been talking about some video editing and trying to get some videos running on that that we've pulled off of modern sources. And you would like to think a 200 meg QuickTime movie would play pretty smoothly on that sort of hardware. It's not great. So I know a number of things that can contribute to that, but you do see the rapid improvements that were made in terms of the performance side of things as well, from the public beta through 10.0 and then to 10.1, and all well and good to stick say 10.3 on some very early G3 hardware and say, this doesn't perform very well. And it's like, well, no, it won't, because it's a much more modern operating system. But the public beta was, and 10.0 was a bit of an eye-opener to say performance really wasn't there at this stage. But we know it came, which is great to see.
It certainly did. And again, just harking back to the exhibition you've got there, seeing the period correct hardware and software for the reasons you just said, that if you put more modern operating systems in old hardware, they're not necessarily going to go well together. They're, as you say, they're incremental improvements where there was a sweet spot for the hardware, but then the operating system moved on as the hardware advanced, and more advanced and faster machines became available. You could do more and more under the hood in the operating system. So I think seeing the period correct, as you've done in the exhibit, really showcases the operating system for the correct hardware, and it makes a huge difference. The other big feature of the day, of the open day, was the repair corner with Danny, which was really popular and a great thing to do. What do you want to tell us about that?
Oh, wow. So firstly, I just want to say again, Danny, if you're watching, thank you again for all your efforts that you put in. I unfortunately didn't get to spend a lot of time watching the repairs, but so I'll throw to you in a moment, JD. You can tell us a bit about that. But um, I'm very grateful that Danny was able to repair my Apple IIc and got my Apple III up and running. So I'm excited. I actually didn't mention on the Sunday I was in at the museum. Playing around with my Apple III. So that was great, which I've been hanging out to do. So yeah, again, thank you to Danny for the repairs that he did for me. But also, thank you, Danny, that you were able to do that in front of an audience, because that was, I think, just so great. I got a lot of positive comments about people being able to stand around and actually watch someone do some of the repair work and ask questions as things are happening. And, we're very blessed to have opportunities like that with live streams that take place on YouTube as well, which is great. But I think it's a different experience being there and actually watching up close someone do it. We had JD brought your digital microscope down so that we could put the vision on a larger screen as well for people to watch along to. And then we were also, it was great that we were able to watch Danny perform a couple of spontaneous repairs on a couple of other machines that were put up on the bench, and one for a very younger visitor that had a Mac Plus that was providing a bit of problems, causing a bit of problems, and Danny was able to put some time and effort into that and get it up and running. So we had a very happy visitor there. So I was rapt to sort of see the outcome and enjoy the outcome of Danny's work. But JD, you watched along. Tell us a little bit about how it went down.
Yeah, I tried to spend most of my time there when I wasn't chatting, and was disappointed when I missed out on seeing a few of the critical moments. But Danny certainly came well prepared. So as you would if you're a good technician, and he's certainly a fantastic repairer. So he came along knowing about the Apple IIc, and what a few of us have learned along the way is RAM chips are usually the issue. So he came with this huge tube of RAM chips to replace if necessary. But he did all the right things, as you'd expect. He went through and problem solved and just checked all the basics. And in fact discovered that the ROM was bad in the Apple IIc, which I know you're aware of. And so I didn't have to repair any of the RAM, just swap the ROM out, which was socketed. So it's just pull it out, put in a new one, repower, and away it went. So, we were expecting, I think, probably an hour or so of discussion while they were soldering and unsoldering stuff. And it was fixed in, probably 20, 30 minutes. So a bit disappointing from that point of view because he was so good at it. But But a couple of other little things that he did that were worth watching, and I've sort of documented them for my own use. Is whilst he was got the motherboard out, he checked that the RF connector, or rather the RCA connector for video, which often spins. He soldered that to preventative maintenance for the future, which was a good tip, which I'll certainly do if I open any of these machines up that have got that same connector. Some changes that you need to make to the motherboard when you upgrade the ROM I wasn't aware of, actually. So I presume it comes with the chips when you buy them. But you have to cut a trace and close another jumper. So there's I won't go into the detail, it's Danny's face, but I was unaware of that change being necessary, and you don't know that necessarily when you buy some of these upgrades. So that was good to know, and I've documented that I need to go and look it up, is, I guess, for me the real trick. He also did some keyboard upgrades or repairs for the Apple IIc as well, taking out the black spill membrane that just turns into dust. I think it's happened to a couple of mine, actually, when I'm cleaning them this last week. Bits of black have just dropped out of them, and I know where they're coming from. So, it was good to, other than the getting it working, it was good the other periodic maintenance things that he was doing, knowing the Apple IIc as well as he did. He was also checking a 2C monitor. He bought his own. So there's two brands, which I didn't realise, that or two manufacturers. And it turns out I've got one of each. And so I got a bit of confidence that I could actually turn one of them on, the Hitachi version, and give it a run. And in my case, mine stopped working at home here within a couple of minutes. But again, having seen how Danny, disassembled and where he checked and so forth for the repairs, gave me the confidence to do that myself. And it ended up being a really simple fuse replacement in my case. But again, I probably wouldn't have, in fact, I know I wouldn't have tried it if I hadn't have been there at the open day and seeing Danny do some similar repairs and so forth on the same monitor. So that was great. And as you mentioned, there was a young visitor who brought in 2 Mac Pluses. And I actually missed out, and so I had to go back and ask Danny, what did you do? What was the repair? And so for one of them, it was actually working fine, but wouldn't read any discs. Certainly Matt and I have done some work on that. Matt's been teaching me about doing some preventative maintenance on floppy disks, but it turns out they just needed a head clean. So Danny pulled out the drive, gave the head clean with, I presume it was a Q-tip and a bit of isopropyl alcohol, and away it went. And to say the young fellow was overjoyed is an understatement. He was almost jumping out of his skin to have that working again. And then in the case of the second one, as a lot of people will know, these older machines, particularly those big analog boards, get cracks in the solder joints. And apparently that was the issue, which wasn't repaired on the day, but certainly diagnosed what the likely cause was. And along the way, Danny removed all the reefer caps that like to go bang and generate some smells. So I think that's the other thing about being in person too. It's the heat, the smell, all those sorts of things. They just help with the memory.
Yes.
Rightly or wrongly, on what to do. And then Matt, with your Apple III, so we know the magic smoke came out of it a few weeks ago. And I was there. Fortunately, I was watching Danny, and just removing the reefer caps was the simple repair. And he's also removed the solder. So if you ever want to replace them with new equivalents, you can. But again, to watch him doing that and actually see the proportions so that you know what you're looking for when you're doing the similar sorts of work, in my case, was just brilliant. So really enjoyed it. Danny did a great job, and it was very nice of him to volunteer his time to do that and to share the knowledge.
Yeah, no, it was wonderful. I think it is important that I make a mention that at this stage, the museum won't be a sort of a drop-in repair station on the open days. It was, hopefully I can encourage Danny to come back and do some repairs that people can come and observe. So I just wanted to mention that. So please don't line up on a Saturday morning with your repair work under your arm, because we're not at that stage at this point. And Danny's time, he's, as you mentioned, the key word there, JD, was volunteered. He'd volunteered his time to come down and talk repairs and allow people to observe some repairs. So in the short term, that will be the initiative again. If Danny's happy to do that work again, very possibly even I can sort of advertise what the repairs will be ahead of time, similar like I did with the mentioning the 2C and the run up. But once again, Danny, thank you if you're watching for your time. And again, particularly for the repairs, to get a couple of museum machines up and running, which is great.
Yeah, and I think, whilst Danny may not be there at every open day, and I hope he is, but he may not be, there are plenty of YouTube channels. And in fact, we know that Bruce from Brankus Creations tunes in from time to time. Hi, Bruce. Thanks for your support. And he's got some fantastic videos and he does a lot of live streams too, as I think Matt, and a lot of our listeners will know, where you can sit down and he chats about things that are going on around him as he's repairing things. And if you've got the time to do that, sitting in and watching him at work is fantastic. So there's other avenues where you can get this sort of information as well if you need to.
Absolutely. Yep, that's great.
So it was a fantastic day, as you said. The weather was great too, which probably helped get people out and about, and it was great to see everyone down there. Were there any other things you wanted to talk about that came to your attention during the open day?
Always lots of great chats. There's some bits and pieces that I've been trying to sort of put up for sale as well, in the foyer, which are there to be moved on with, again, proceeds just to go back into the museum operation. So we'll touch on that a little bit later on of what I've got at the moment, but yeah, look, it's always great. I get inspired. You use that word there, Justin. It is inspiring, and it's just so great to have chats with people. I try to catch up with everybody that comes in to the museum. Unfortunately, sometimes that's just not possible. But I do try to have a chat with everyone that comes in, and I get a lot of fun out of it, and it's great to. One thing actually I'm going to say is one chap that I spoke to was excited that I was able to unlock some core memories for him with a couple of games that he got to play. He talked about having played them at after school care when he was a younger school child, and we had some of those titles here at the museum, which was awesome. So he said just went, trip down memory lane. So that's the kind of experience that I just love hearing about, and love being able to provide for people. So lots of fun. JD, thank you again for coming down as always, and looking forward to the next one in October.
Always a pleasure to be involved. So if you came down to the open day, what was your favourite thing? Let us know down in the comments. And even if you didn't, what would you like to see at Mac Museum Open Day? I'm sure Matt would love to hear from you. And I know that, early feedback was about extra colours. And so having the iBooks out certainly achieves that. So what are your thoughts? What do you like about the museum? What would you like to see? Let us know down in the comments. And of course, in terms of our podcast here, if you've got any thoughts about the podcast or future topics, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. So, on to recent news, and there's a few things coming out of the Australian Computer Museum Society just at the moment. And the first one is an announcement about the October Retro Challenge, which apparently the ACMS has taken over. So the Retro Challenge is a strange game, as it says there on the screen. And for the month of October, basically you undertake a project of some kind in retro computing. So either using a retro computer or fixing one or something to do with a retro computer. Generally speaking, you can sign up, and then there's a competition at the end. There's a bit of a panel, I believe, that judge who the winner of the Retro Challenge is. So with the Retro Challenge, Matt, you've got the museum, so you're almost retro challenged every day. But would you do something special for this October?
Oh, gosh, I might have. You might have to come and ask me again at next episode, JD, so I can give some thought about what I could focus on. There's a million things here, but really, pulling something out. I've got something in mind. I might just give it some more thought before I reveal those. So, what about you, JD?
Yeah, well, a bit like you with the tribute to OS 10, I've gone early with my Apple IIc, but I think getting it up and running and getting particularly some software onto a 3.5-inch floppy drive, which is my current challenge. It definitely is a challenge because I'm trying to use my M1 Mac Mini, and trying to get a 1985 computer talking to a 2020 computer is hard.
I hear you.
So links down in the description if you're interested in the Retro Challenge. Another item that came out of the Australian Computer Museum Society is this post. Actually, I got their email as well, but this post around Macageddon. So the museum have got hold of a number of Mac SEs. There's Bruce, we mentioned him earlier. And so the Macageddon, which is going to take place in October, is they're trying to get 7 of these SE30s repaired and up and running. And you can participate by buying one of these for a donation of $389 and attempting to repair it alongside Bruce with his tutorage. And either way, you get to keep it at the end, whether it's working or not. And I'm sure Bruce will give you a hand if if it was repairable. So again, links down in the description. If you're interested, give it a go. You've got enough SE30s, I'm guessing, Matt?
I do, but what a machine to sort of focus on. An SE30, that's great. So, $389, it goes to a great cause, keeping the ACMS running. Adrian and Bruce are obviously going to be putting in a lot of time and effort there to get them going. So yeah, that's really cool. That's I think that's a really great initiative, and you can get something out of it, not just the experience. You walk away with an SE30 as well. So very cool. I love that.
The next bit of news that came in only yesterday, as you can see there from the listing, was on the Apple.Matrix Printers channel in Facebook, and Josh Moyer has finally released his Ghost script. Now, if you haven't been following along, firstly you probably need a dot matrix printer, but the Ghost script will allow a contemporary computer to print on an old Apple.Matrix printer, like an image writer, for example. That's the primary focus. So haven't tried it yet, but sounds like a great project, perfect project for a retro challenge, actually, to use your contemporary hardware with an old printer. And I know you like old printers, Matt, so I thought you might enjoy this one.
I do. I think that's really good. For anyone that's come down to the museum recently, you've seen I've got a check-in system running off an SC30. I had plans originally to get the printing side of things up and running there as well, which you'd say that's easy, just it's period, same sort of period hardware, but getting it going on something newer would be even cooler, I reckon. So I like, very cool.
Moving on to coming events, and the Australian Computer Museum Society again feature here. So the ACMS WA branch is apparently working with the Technology Museum of WA, and they're looking to have a workshop event, I think, on or about the 18th of October. So it's early days, but put it in your diary, particularly if you're in WA, and links down in the description. Just keep up to date and see how that's progressing. The next event, now this is a commercial event, but for reasons that'll become obvious, we thought it was important to promote. So Reconnect Melbourne is coming up in Melbourne on the 16th of October to the 17th for the conference, and there's some training days, I believe, immediately beforehand. So there are tickets. The tickets start at $449. So this is a connection event for those that use Claris FileMaker. And I might hand over to you, Matt, if you wanted to tell us a little bit why this is important to us.
Yeah, so FileMaker's played an important role in my life with systems I've developed and put together for various purposes. And this popped up in my inbox from Claris advertising this event, and I got in touch with the organisers and said, "Hey, would you like to have some old Macs on display running early versions of FileMaker?" And I was delighted to hear they said yes. So Mac Museum will be on display at Reconnect. So if you're not going there for the modern versions of FileMaker, you can check out vintage ones, which will be running there on vintage hardware. But Claris being a subsidiary of Apple with their key product FileMaker, it's the biggest FileMaker focused event or Claris event in Australia, or I think even the Pacific region this year. So old Mac Museum will be there with some vintage and retro stuff to play around with. So I thought it was just great to mention for anyone else that's interested in the platform.
Now the Mac Museum, I don't think we've updated the date yet, but I believe it's going to be the 4th of October. Would that be right?
It will, yes. It will certainly be the 4th of October. Yes, I'm a bit behind on my web admin there, so I will tidy that up. Quick, smart, post to socials, but it will be the 4th of October.
Fantastic. And Retro Gaming Bendigo have got their next meeting already advertised, also for the 4th of October, so they seem to have the same schedule as the Mac Museum, but that's okay. There's room for all. But again, if you're near Bendigo and you're into gaming, bring along your Mac games and consoles or computers or your Pippins or whatever it might be, and show off your Apple gaming at the Retro Gaming Bendigo event on the 4th of October. WasFest 41, still coming up on the 27th of September. And again, held in a private home in Sydney. So contact the organisers to get all the details if you're interested. This event, of course, is focused on Apple II computers. The Adelaide Retro Computing Group. Now, they've got their next meeting. In fact, as we're recording this, it will be tomorrow, Friday, the 12th of September. So hopefully I can edit this and get it out later today, just in time. But we've advertised this previously. In fact, I think we might have dropped it off last week. Apologies. But we're not that we're not supporting it, and it's coming up Friday, the 12th of September. And I happened to notice that they had a really early release of their next retro computer swap meet notice. Now, in fact, when I went to click on some of the links, they don't work. So this might be very, very advanced notice. But they're going to have a swap meet at the Adelaide Retro Computer area in South Australia on the 25th of November. So it's very early notice, but there it is.
Cool.
Also coming up this weekend on Sunday the 14th, Technology Markets have got their next technology computer market and, more importantly, vintage computer collection show at Springer's Leisure Centre in Keysborough. Doors open at 10. The Mac Museum and I will both be there doing various things. I'm hoping to bring my Apple IIc things with me, unless they fail, and I'll find something else to bring instead. Matt's going to be there as well. What are you bringing? Anything interesting that you can tell us about?
It'll be, I think, Mac stuff. Something colourful, something beige, and then something for sale. I think that will be, my contribution.
Fantastic. So come and see us at the Technology Market, but more importantly, the Retro Computer Show at the Springers Leisure Centre in Keysborough on Sunday the 14th from 10 a.m. So on to our for sale section. So as previous, I've done a bit of a sweep where I can to find Apple retro things for less than $100. Some of them are linked back to previous episodes. Some of them are linked to Matt's or my particular desires in terms of computer retro collecting. So hopefully you enjoy them. First up, we have a purple iMac from New South Wales for just on $100 and apparently working, complete with keyboard and 2 Mighty Mice.
$100 is pretty good for something that they do say still works and boots. So, not the matching keyboard and mouse, but at least something there to get you going. So, yeah.
So no pictures of it working, but they say it works. Next up, I know it's not old, and I know it's not a genuine Apple product, but because I've been playing with my keyboard collection the last couple of weeks, I was really drawn to the idea of using my Mac 128K keyboard with my M1 Mac Mini. And this little device apparently lets you do that. So USB at one end and the RJ11 connector at the other for your very early Mac keyboard to run on your contemporary machine. This one's from New South Wales at $59, and I thought I couldn't resist. What do you reckon, Matt?
I thought that was pretty cool. I have to say I'm not a massive fan of the original Mac keyboard and mouse. Not one that I think personally I could use on a day-to-day basis, but I loved the idea for anyone that wanted to. I thought, yeah, really cool.
Could be part of your retro challenge, perhaps.
Yes, it could be.
Next up, again, we've talked about mice a fair bit, or I keep talking about mice all the time. And in fact, this is one that Matt just referenced earlier at the open day. I bought one of these along, which is a black Apple Pro mouse. But if you look at the photos, in fact, it appears to have the white cable. It's certainly got the white connector, which would suggest the white cable. So if you're looking for one of those, and perhaps Matt is, $35 from Victoria.
That's it. Yes, I'm one short for my exhibit, so I might have to snap that one up.
And it's got the magic red glow, so it's got to be good.
It's working.
Next up, now we talked about this last week, I think. Recently, we talked about eWorld, and so I thought this was an interesting item that's for sale. So it's the official guide for Mac users to Apple's eWorld. It says software included, but the description says, in fact, the disk is missing. It doesn't make much difference, to be honest, because you're not going to be able to log into eWorld. It no longer exists. Nevertheless, if you're interested in the history of Apple and its online presence, this might be a great book for you. $34.99 currently out of South Australia. A book for you, Matt?
It actually looks like the proportions looks very close to a big box software sort of dimensions, which got me excited when I first saw it. Before reading it was a book, I thought, oh, eWorld in a box, that's great. So, yeah, probably not one for me. I'll let that one go to the keeper, but yeah, very cool nonetheless.
Next, Matt, I know you like to have the correct power cables for your displays, and I saw this, and it happens to be from a friend of the show and the friend of the museum from WA. So I thought it was worth pointing out. So the translucent iMac cable, very reasonably priced at $14.50 from our friend over in WA.
This one is the one, which just screams Apple, the fact that, it's translucent. There's the early ones, which have the right angle connectors and have the little Apple in the little thumb grip area.
This does have an Apple in it.
They went through a phase. There's a little Apple on this one too, yeah, which is cool. And there's a phase where we just went through rather generic looking grey ones, and then Apple went back to these ones, and then some white versions. I've got a deficit of white ones at the moment, so yeah, but this is very reasonably priced, like you said, JD, and this is probably one of the longest conversations we'll ever have about a power cord. So that's that's great.
I'm sure we'll do it again.
I'll shut up now.
And the last item for our for sale this week is actually from the Mac Museum, and I was just amazed that Matt had these machines available at a very, very affordable price. Now, admittedly, they're a MacBook, so it is Intel, which we generally don't talk about too much on this show, but really it's too great an opportunity to pass up. Over to you, Matt. What's the deal?
Thanks, JD. Yeah, sponsored post here in terms of the for sale listing, but I do have a stack of MacBooks which for museum visitors and Mac Museum people are available for $25. So they don't come with a power cord or power adapter. You can use a MagSafe to USB-C adapter if you were to purchase one off of eBay, or any MagSafe 1 adapter rated for at least 60 watts. So they've been restored, they're clean, they've got some, bumps and scratches from day-to-day use, but, for $25, the objective with these is just having them at a cheap price. So, probably more particularly younger folk can get their hands on something which is, certainly well and truly obsolete in the Apple scheme, in Apple sort of terminology, no longer current, can run up to 10.13, which isn't too old. Again, that's relative, that comment, but they're preloaded with 10.7, and you can. I had it in the museum foyer here running Pirates of Silicon Valley, so it's a great DVD player as well. But I will be bringing a stack of those to Keysborough on Sunday for anyone that wants to pick one up.
There you go. So save on shipping, save on having to travel. If you're near Keysborough, drop in. And I'm sure that you don't get that copy of Macworld with it, but I just love the looking good is just a fantastic advert for the MacBook on the front cover. It's brilliant.
That worked out nicely. Yeah, as I've said time and time again, I like setting up my sort of period accurate shots here. Um, if I'm being critical of myself, the Apple Care was not precisely the version that would have been alongside of that. That's not the correct one, but yeah, there we go. Anyway,
Looks good either way. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us again this week. I hope you enjoyed our discussion about the Open Day and particularly around the tribute to OS 10 and Danny's great work in the Repair Corner. Again, if you've got any comments about what you'd like to see at the Mac Museum or what you want to see us talk about here on the podcast, please let us know down in the comments. So, Matt, any final thoughts about the Open Day or anything we've chatted about today?
Look, I think just as I've said, JD, it's always fills me with excitement and it's inspiring after every Mac Museum Open Day to to get into everything and just continue to make the museum better and more exciting to come and visit. So, like you said, I'm always open to feedback and suggestions, just want to make it a great place for like-minded people to come down and hang out and chat and enjoy the old vintage and retro Mac tech, Apple tech.
Well, it certainly is a great place to come and enjoy that totally. So we'll be back again next week. So like and subscribe so you don't miss out. And we look forward to seeing you then. Take care.
See you, everyone.
Thank you for joining the Macdownunder Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon.